So everybody, welcome to, we're going to talk about how to submit CPAN modules and kind of getting through the process of getting your account set up and a little bit of the process and what's involved, and then hopefully all going well, we will have a live demo of actually publishing something that we go through and submit and publish. So to start off, I kind of just an open question for everybody. Why would you want to publish to CPAN?
Self-loathing.
Masochism.
Masochism. You're maintaining some of those modules that are very old and outdated, or what are some other reasons to get back to the open source community?
People will tell you to fix your PUI code.
Feedback.
Free QA.
Free QA.
Maybe help other people.
It's surprising how much that is true. I've been surprised when I submit a CPAN module that I get a lot of people who come back with something.
You want to use the code again somewhere else other than work.
Exactly. That's a great one, and that's part of why we're kind of talking about this. Is there's a couple modules that we are looking to release as open source or Open West, and to kind of promote what we do here and the give back to the community. It's a great thing, you know, we all have a great power, we all have a great knowledge of what we do, and to be able to share that, and Pearl has one of the best communities for this, and they have CPAN, which makes it available for us to do that, and to share knowledge and to share modules with a whole bunch of other people, and to collaborate together. And if there's something that you don't like and the author's not willing to change it, you can fork it and make it your own and make something off of it. So there's a lot of collaboration, there's a lot of contest, and contest will sometimes make things even better. So there's plenty of reasons why you would want to do this. It also helps you to be able to grow as a programmer and a developer. You get involved in the community, you start to meet more people. Those of us that went to YAPC last year had a great time interacting and meeting with other people. Gets you more familiar with those in the community. So there's all kinds of great things that are there. Whatever the reason is that you want to do this, I've talked to some people who publish their modules because then that's how they distribute them to their own servers. They don't expect anybody else to use that code but themselves, so they'll put that into a module and publish it there. All the reasons that we've talked about are all great reasons to contribute. So your duties, the basics, traps. So if a lot of what I'm going to kind of talk about in the beginning is going through the tutorial that is on CPAN on how to publish modules. And if you want to, you have more in depth and you can go in there and read. But I'll kind of just touch some of the highlights and the basics of going through and getting that, and then we'll create our cause account and everything. And so with that, we want to be responsible. It is all open source. So who's held responsible? It's all up to us for what we're willing to contribute and to give back. And we're the ones that need to be mindful of others. You know, we don't want to be selfish. We don't want to, poison a namespace or cause collision. You know, everybody has differing opinions. So there's going to be a lot of contention in that with what you're doing. So you want to be very mindful of others and be willing to compromise, make exceptions, listen to other people's feedback. A lot of times when we're publishing something this way, we are looking for feedback. We want people to help us become better. So just be mindful of everybody else as you're going through this, not to just be thinking about yourself always in how you're naming your modules, what you want the functionality of what you're trying to do. Be open to feedback, be open to criticism, and know that in my interactions of doing this, my biggest fear at first was to be put down by others, and I was afraid that what others might think or what others might do, but it's been the opposite experience for me, that the more that I've reached out and talked to other people, the more they're willing to help, and it's just like all of us in this room, we love helping each other, we love teaching, we love learning. We don't want to put other people down. So if it's a fear that is keeping you from going forward and doing some of this and getting involved and sharing, just know that the community is a great community, and It is because we have that duty to be respectful for others. So if you read this, there's a few things that they expect you to kind of already understand before you publish modules. And most of that, again, is just the ProMod install, ProMod lit, ProMod style, and ProNew mod. Those man pages just kind of talk about how you're supposed to structure your modules, how your pod doc should look, what just to kind of keep some consistencies. It doesn't talk about code style. It doesn't talk about anything else that way. When you're doing things on your own, you're open to how you want to do that. However, you still do want to kind of try to conform to some standard. So oftentimes what I'll do is I'll look at other modules that might be similar or other things that way and try to mimic my code to match what they would have as opposed to just pioneering my own style. Perl best practices and Perl Critic and other things also provide great ways of doing that. If you're publishing large modules that a lot of people are going to be using, you'll want to definitely take a look at the style of your code so that people can look into it, read it, help them, and patches back to you. So the two things that you do want to remember, so it boils down to think before you ever upload, or think better even talk before you upload. So talk to other people. It's great. I've even already had some conversations with people who wanted to publish the modules, and what have they been doing? They're talking about what they want to create, and getting ideas and bouncing that off of all of us. That's the best way to start. It starts with an idea, and we can all help those ideas grow and share those ideas with others. That will also help those ideas grow so that we can make them even better ideas. And then respect the namespace of others. So what that means is don't go in there and create your new module as libtime. Time is kind of a reserved area. So in the beginning, namespaces, and we were having a discussion about this just the other day, namespaces used to be a lot more sacred, I would say, is in this setting. You wouldn't want to jump on somebody else's namespace. You wouldn't want to create just a random namespace that was going to collide with a lot of other things. So you want to name your modules in a sense that it is meaningful to the module. You won't want to just create some random word that doesn't mean anything. You want to try to name them correctly. So in doing so, talk to other people, try to find what works well, look at what other modules are there that are similar, try to name them similar. One of the ones that we were talking about is we want to release our time module, but we obviously can't call it time. So we were thinking of probably like Time Tiny or something like that would be able to fit into that namespace. So especially if you are going to be registering a namespace that is going to be a collision like that, you will want to request that through the POS account, which I'll show you that in just a minute. So I've mentioned POS a couple times. What POS stands for is it's Perl Authors Upload Server. So you create an account with POS, and it will provide a personal directory and enable you as the owner to upload your files to this. And this is how things get published over onto CPAN. And you can get to that by that URL. So if you just go to pos.perl.org, from there you can see that. And first off, if you haven't ever been there before, you will want to go ahead and register an account. That will sometimes take between 1 and 3 weeks. Generally, it's a couple of days. So you don't need to worry too much if it hasn't come. They do go through and verify every account and set that out. So I believe when I set mine up a couple of years ago, 3 or 4 years ago, it took about 3 or 4 days.
It just depends on who the current maintainer is,
yeah.
If they're on vacation or busy.
Yeah, and so it's just whoever's maintaining it at that point, and on the document it says at most it'd be 3 weeks, but generally it's within a couple of days. And if you're doing it during the work week, generally it's going to go through pretty quick. So from that, if you've gone to that website, as you guys all have laptops, you can go there and request a POS account, and it'll pull up and look similar to that. You can go through and fill out the information. Once you have that, you'll be able to log in. You'll get an email. You'll be able to log in, and then it will look and change some of the options. And then you can see we have some of the main options again that were up here. Upload to CPAN, show the files that we have, prepare a pending upload, and you can delete files. Register the namespace. So if you're having a module that you're putting in there and you want to have it be more standard, you can register that namespace. And view or change permissions, and be able to edit your account. One of the things after you sign up you want to go in and do is, if you click on the edit account, it will bring that up and it will allow you to show your display name, your publicly visible email. One of the really cool things with doing this is this will also enable you to have a cpan.org email address. And down there at the bottom you'll be able to have it send to your public email address if it doesn't match that, or your secret email address, or neither. So that's kind of nice too. That gives you the ability, then you can use that as you're publishing with your author, your modules. You can put that and use that. You can also just use your personal email or a work email or domain stuff. Some of the rules and regulations and stuff that we will have in relation to releasing some of our stuff that we work on here, we will have. Is Jared going to be presenting on some of that to us, or is he going to be getting us the
I'll
documentation?
probably be doing it on Friday.
Yeah. So we will be getting some of that, and we'll talk a little bit more about the laws and the regulations of what we will need to do, but how we represent it, how it's being released, and all the copyright and everything for that. Before you upload a new module to CPAN, please carefully consider what name you plan for the module. So again, I've talked a lot about namespace and that's as you go through this, it's very crucial. I've emphasized this a lot as I've been working with newer people that come in here. You don't want to just go and start naming things willy-nilly. You want to talk to somebody about it first. It can cause a lot of conflict later on down the road if you name something incorrectly. We've gone through some stuff recently, and Joe can attest to this, that renaming modules is not fun. So be mindful of, before you do and make something permanent, it's probably going to be permanent. It's not very often that gets to change. And then how your module relates to similar modules. So go out there and search CPAN and go look and see what's already there. Go find and try to track down and see what other modules are already out there. There might already be something that does what you want, but maybe it's just a little bit different. So you can go and either create a patch to that one and add your features into it. You can fork it, or you can create your own new namespace. There's all kinds of modules out there that will do all the same things, and as we've talked about with Perl, there's more than one way to do it always. So that you just want to be mindful of that, though, that if you're writing something that's very similar to something else, try to be mindful and put that in the same namespace. And choosing a good name is also important. We talked about that just briefly again too. You don't want to name it something that doesn't describe what it is or what it's going to do. So that's once you get the PAWS account, then you're going to be able to upload your files. So how do we get our files together? As we've done stuff here, and as you're more used to and accustomed, we just check things in and out of CVS. So you can kind of think of it a little bit as that same thing. As you write the code, you have to package it, and then you upload a tarball to your PAWS account. And you can go through and you can create your own pod doc. You can create your own distribution files. You can create your own licensing. You can create your own README. But there's plenty of modules that will allow you to do that. I'm only going to demonstrate one of them. There's again 100 ways to do this. I think Paul even does it himself. I don't think he uses any make or build ones. He was saying that he just does it on his own, which he probably wrote his own to do it. So the one that I'm going to display is just Dizzilla, and I'll just show quickly, and then we'll actually do a demonstration. So you first just install the Dizzilla module, and it will come with a bunch of binaries and other Perl scripts that you can run. Yeah, it's a large one, and it has an infinite amount of plugins. It's very customizable, and You can write your own modules for it to do the things that you want to, and I'll demonstrate a couple of the ones that I have found that I have liked in my looking at. So once you get it installed, you first will, you just run dzil, and dzil is your main command. If you just run that and call help, it'll show you the options that you have. You can increment revisions, you can install the module locally, you can do a lot of powerful things from this. Basically anything that you can think of that you can do from downloading a module and installing it from CPAN, you can just do with this module. And it will create files, it will create standard licensing and distribution files and other things. Once you first install it, you'll want to run dzil setup, and it will ask you some questions. It'll get your name, it'll get your email address, it'll get your your licensing stuff. As you can see, it'll basically just question all of this and get everything ready so that when I run this, it's going to create an empty file with all of the appropriate information. It'll go through and it will just make, so we want to, whatever we're calling our new module, your module. So it creates an empty directory and creates the files inside of there. It'll create a lib directory and then the dist init file. And from that, then you can start to write your code in your module. There would be inside of here, there will be a lib directory and your and the module.pm. And it has the stub already for the module PM, has warnings and strict on, and you can just start writing your code. So you can do that if you already have an existing one. You can also take your existing library, move it over, run dist, and dzil has options for converting and taking an already existing module and packaging that and going through and making sure it's all up to date. It'll also spew out very nice errors or warnings if you're missing certain pod doc in your distribution or inside of that, and it will help guide you along to make sure that you package your tarball correctly, and then it will even go forward and do that. Then from this one, the nice thing with this module too is then this will also directly upload it to your POS account. So you can configure it so that once you're done, you don't have to copy that tarball all the way over to your desktop, or if you're doing it locally, you don't have to copy the tarball and then upload it through the POS account. But you can still do that as well. So anything that this is doing is just doing a lot more of the automation of taking our idea and moving that along. Once you have that already set up and you have that, so if we were just going to be releasing our module, then all we do is we just run dzil release and then the module name, and it will go through and it will build it, it will run your test cases, it will package everything together, it will make sure the licensing files are there, it will keep your versioning correct, and go through and get everything ready so that it will upload really nicely to your POS account. Then it extracts, makes everything looks good, make sure it can build, make sure that all of the metadata that needs to be there is set up. And then I didn't show it here, but then after it would also then prompt you if you wanted to use your POS account, and it would say, would you like to just upload this now? You could also do dry runs, you can test it, you can do a lot of other things. So dzil just makes it really nice, so you don't have to think about a lot of those other things. If you're just trying to release something, you don't need to worry about the licensing, you just want to use a lot of the default stuff to get it out there. This will also help you document the code and make sure that everything's is there based off the comments that you leave in there. So with that, I also would like to just kind of plug GitHub as well now. So GitHub now makes it very easy for the modules that are there to be added and uploaded into CPAN. So you can easily come over here and create your GitHub account, and you just create the module the same way. You can check it in and out. You can then distribute that. Multiple people can be contributors on it. You can have people easily submit patches. And it just makes it very easy and convenient for you to have that in a repository that's not local to your machine. We all know what it's like to lose our machine or our data, and how frustrating that can be. So to have a free location that you can put these modules, most people are converting all the old modules over to GitHub, and anything new is almost all being put through GitHub. So if you are going to start a module, create your GitHub account, clone clone your repo out of there and start your development there. So when we went to YAPC last year, we kind of went through I went through a class that was talking about just standard releases, and I went through and did a lot of the stuff to start getting used to it. And when we were down there, we were having Travis drive us around, and he was using Google to try to navigate us, and we got to the wrong place like 3 or 4 times. So we were all joking that we were going to create a module, and so we can see it's in the Acme namespace called the Travigator that's going to give us random phrases or sayings whenever we want to go somewhere. So with that, if we look at the you can see that I've released a couple already, and so what it will do is it will create the directory and put all the files in there. It'll put your manifest, your YAML, the makefile, license, and everything, then also your t-tests, and you can see that there's the module. Then if we look at that, you can just see it's a very, very simple module. All we have is an array that has some different sayings, and then we just randomly choose an index and return that. So anytime you call Travigate, it's just going to return one of these 3 sayings. Nothing special, but it uses the exporter. Travis submitted a patch, so then we patched it and added that. Then it also has the Perl doc. And one of the cool things with the Distzilla, that one of the modules that I'm using, it will actually create the pod doc for you based on how you set everything up. So you don't have to go through and always write the documentation. It kind of just documents the code for you. And then you can also take that and edit it as you need to. Then it also puts the licensing and the copyright down at the bottom, so you don't have to go and remember how to do that every time. That makes it very nice. So that'll go and release all of that. And so what we'll do is we'll actually go ahead and create another random phrase.
Left turn.
Roger.
Would you like fries with that?
So with it being Git, we can now see the status and see that we have changes that are in there. See the diff of what we've just changed. Then we can still run our tests, because we all write tests, right? So we can still make sure that our test cases all successfully pass or fail, and if they fail, then we would want to change them. So you can just see the simple tests that I have written for this. All we're doing is we're just calling Travigate and then just making sure that it returns something. That we got the directions. Because when you run the release, it will go through and actually run all your test cases and make sure everything passes. Especially that I want to make a point of that too. When you are releasing things, you do want to make sure you have things very well tested. That's one thing that once somebody's trying to patch something, test cases just make it very easy to go through and prove or disprove that something is working or not working as intended. So you want to make sure that you have very good test coverage. If somebody does submit a bug to you, it's nice, as you are submitting bugs to other people, it's always nice to try to submit a patch or a test case that will make or break what we're talking about. The creators are going to be much more likely to accept a patch if you're willing to put the effort of what you found and discovered. So writing a test case for that is very beneficial, and I would encourage that as you start going through and doing this, if you are submitting patches to people, make sure you also provide the appropriate test cases to test that. Now, if somebody just gives you a bug and they don't give you a test case, you want to go and write a test case for that bug and add that in, and then make sure that that's tested and verified. Then all of your other test cases also run, so you didn't break anything, and then you can get ready to publish that. So the other thing that we need to do before we can release this is we're going to come into our the configuration file, and we need to increment the version. But also, I just wanted to show these are plugins that come inside of Distilla, and again, there's an infinite amount of these that are available on CPAN. And the ones that I found that I like, this Pod Weaver is the one that goes through and it will create all the pod documentation, so that when it's printed and put on CPAN, it'll make sure that the pod doc is all correct. And then the GitHub Meta is a really awesome one if you are using the GitHub repo, because it will actually go out and look for your GitHub repo and link all of that in metadata on CPAN, so that when you're on the Meta CPAN, it'll actually link directly to your Git repo, so that when somebody wants to come and fork your module, they want to submit a patch, they want to look at the source code, they have all of that available, and you don't have to do anything other than put that line in there, and it will just do it for you. So that's a huge
Yeah,
advantage in this.
amazing.
Yeah.
There's another one that'll take care of your version information for you as well.
Yeah, there's versioning ones, and
they'll also integrate in Git as well, so your Git commit notes.
yeah, so the Git commit notes and will all be versioning and everything, and so you can configure that. Basically, if you can think about it, it's probably already been done in relation to what you would want to do on release.
Just think, whatever we learned from Damien last year about, we're developers, why do we do things twice when we can make a computer do it for us? All of those are plugins available. So anything you've ever had to manually do to release, or you wish you just did these other things, there's options.
So we're going to come in here and just, I didn't have the other one because this was just simple. So we'll increment that. So now our status is we have 2 files that are not in sync. And I'm just going to hurry and I'm going to just add those really quick.
We're losing the last line on your
Oh,
The last 2, the other one's on the black part.
it seemed like.
If you just clear your terminal, wow, then you won't.
if you open Tmux, it would just eat the last line.
Ready to join us, control that.
So I'm going to just commit these and then push them. Oh, I don't have my key there right now, so I'll have to push them later. But so I could have just hurried and pushed them back up to my repo, and then we would have been able to see those changes on there. But I won't be able to right now, so I have the key there. And then from there, those changes again would show up here, and we'd be able to come and look at what those changes were. But so now we can just run this, and it will build it. You can see that it's incremented to the 5, goes through, runs all the test cases, and it's asking me, do you want to continue with the release process? So this is actually going to push it to my pause. It gives me a message that it was sent okay, posting upload of this to the pause account. Now we can go over into my pause account and show my files. And now sometimes this will take a little bit of time to actually go through and show up. And it won't actually be released on CPAN for a little while.
It takes about a day.
Yeah, it takes about
to reliably find it.
Yeah, it's about anywhere from the fastest that I have on go through is about 4 or 5 hours, and up to about 24 hours, and then it'll start to show.
Usually, if you go directly to the masters, you can get it faster. Of course, that's around various systems.
But anyway, so we'll come over here, and I just was going to show too on the if you come, then what's also nice is with this, it will publish your profile and everything. So it'll list all of them, and it will have your your email address that you put in your POS account, and it just pulls everything that all the information you put there. Meta CPAN is really cool to keep track of your activity. There's sites out there that will keep track of modules that are being released and pushed out, and keep track of activity and kind of like leaderboard type things. Then if we dive into the module itself, it will have the pod doc that we spit out. I didn't have to write any of this, I just let the module do it for me. But then I could easily go in here and apply the methods and describe them and talk about them, add more information on using that module. And now you can see it's here. Now we'll get there, and other things will go through and extract that, and then the mirrors will start to pull that in. And once the mirrors pull that in, then you can get that, I believe, here. So we can already see that version 5 is here. So we can go look at that on there. And this will, if we came and actually looked at the source, you can see there's now the new options that we added in. And we could go back and compare that to version 4 and look at the source where they only have the 3 options. Now, we won't necessarily be able to install that again yet, because unless you went directly to the right, the mirror that was able to pull that down. But then eventually later on, I could come back into here, and I could reinstall the module. Most likely this won't work, because you can see, so it's still downloading the old version. But if we went in and changed the mirrors, I could pull directly from the master, and it would pull that down. But eventually I'll be able to come in here and just do that. We can come and run the module. Times. You can see that we're using that local module. So as you can see, it's not too difficult to actually go through the process to get the files and everything there. A lot of the process for getting there is starting with your ideas, talking to others, getting the namespace. Figuring out what you want to do that you could share that might be useful for others. And then even to the same degree as if you're writing something for yourself, and I'll be touching on this at Open West about code reuse, writing plugins and things that you write, if you're ever having to copy and paste code, there's probably a better way to do that. And so this kind of starts to help you get the mindset of, I've already written that once, I don't need to go through all of the time and the pain and the suffering of writing that again. Let me release that so I can use that for myself. We do that all the time here inside of our own modules and everything that we do, that we have these base modules that we use for a lot of things. Most of us in here have helped contribute to one of those, or even written one that is used by others. So there's plenty of chance to do that. Now, what if you don't have a good idea? What if you don't have that? You aren't sure where to get started. There are probably millions of outstanding bugs in CPAN modules, and you can go through and look at the RT tickets that are open for those modules. And some of those modules have been abandoned for years because either the original developer is not developing anymore. He abandoned it. He's not using it. He doesn't care to update it. He might not even like your patch. So there's places that you can go to look at open and available modules that you can take over. So that's also a great place to start if you're overwhelmed on thinking of your own idea. I don't remember the website, but there's a website that's basically, these modules have been abandoned and need new owners. And you can just Google around and find that. There's plenty of those out there. There's plenty of that. So with the nice thing now with the GitHub is if you come over here, you can have people come and branch your code and push back requests to you. So when you log in, you'll have notifications that say, hey, these are the outstanding pull requests that you have. Would you like to merge these back into the master? Sure, somebody else has already done the work, let me look over it, let me run my test cases, let's make sure it builds, and you can just push that out. So if you can start contributing and putting patches and other things into people, start with the modules that you use often. Maybe there's a feature that you're missing, even features or modules that you might not be using here for work, but if you're doing stuff on your own, most of us do things outside of the office, or even just for fun, if you want to go and look. There's plenty of ways to start getting involved. One of the things too that they talked about in the presentation was there's always need to contribute to our core language. So the Perl 5 porters are actually working on the active Perl core, and they're pushing out and doing a lot of new modern stuff. We're getting close to 5.20, which is going to have some pretty awesome features that have been missing from Perl forever. One of the main ones will be signatures on your subroutines. And that all right now is open, and people like us sitting in this room are out there contributing patches to that. The person who was presenting also said that they didn't feel as comfortable with their C programming, and there's plenty of documentation that needs to be updated. So if you start contributing and even just looking through documentation and updating documentation that is wrong. How many times have you gone to use a Perl module and you go to their documentation and it was wrong, or the example that they gave was broken or didn't work? I run into that all the time, and I don't ever spend the time to fix that. But if I did, that would be great, because how many other people then have to come after me and go through that same trouble? So it's all about giving back to helping others and helping ourselves. We're talking about the same things like what Jace just said with Damon bringing up is, if we have to do it more than once, then we probably should look at doing it a different way. And that's the same case. If we can save work for other people, then that helps us give back to the community. That makes you feel better. It makes Bluehost look awesome, because now we have this group of awesome Perl developers. We have one of the greatest Perl shops here in the United States. We have some of the greatest minds that are here. Why not share some of that knowledge and give back to the language that we build and we provide every day? There's plenty of other ways to help and contribute too. You can even, if you don't feel like you want to give that, there's plenty of presentations you can give. You can teach, you can train, and even if you want to go to you can also donate to the Perl Foundation, and you can set up monthly donations if you'd like to contribute that way. So there's plenty of opportunity, plenty of option. Find what fits you. When I started looking at this, I had already been diving into a couple of CPAN modules and working with Modulicious and some stuff. So I started getting in touch with the developers of those modules, and they said, I don't really care about that. So if you want to submit me a patch, then I can take care of that and put that in. And so started working with that, and that's kind of how I started getting involved in a lot of that. And that was really enjoyable, because then I'm communicating and meeting with these other people who sometimes used to be more intimidating, and now I'm on the same level, and I have a friendly communication, and they're just get over that fear of whatever that silly fear might have been that I had before, to get out there, contribute. It makes you better, and it makes it better for us here at Bluehost, because then we have the experience of helping and doing that. So that's all I have for now. Is there any questions?
Are you going to email out the slides?
I can email the slides.
Another nice benefit you can get from uploading to CPAN is there's a website, I can't remember off the top of my head, that will go through a couple hundred Nix flavors and Perl versions, and they download sandbox test your thing, so you can see what's broken in some offshoot version of Perl that you don't have, or some old version of Linux that you don't have, or even another Nix. It's not even Linux.
Yeah, it's this. There's this one that's CPAN testers, and it will go through and it will also run it against different versions of Perl, different Unix installs, different Windows.
It's nice to check that about 2 days after you have uploaded to make sure that your stuff is coming back clean in all the different flavors.
So there, and the other thing too is this testers also needs help all the time. So for QA, you don't have to just sit around and think, well, I'm not really able to contribute modules. What are you great at? You're great at looking at things and finding out why it's broken. And so there's all kinds of open tickets and open things that you can go in and start contributing to as well. You don't have to think that, oh, I need to create modules or that, but there's also things that will help better your skills and your abilities in identifying test cases and writing test cases, and even writing your own modules that help you test better and all of that. So there's plenty for you guys to go and jump in and get involved in as well.
Yeah, that's one of the bigger automatic pluses I saw when I used CPAN myself, was knowing I had to rewrite this line of code because this operator doesn't work in that version of Perl.
Yeah, and then I mean, there's all kinds of statistics and stuff. So we can see mine works all the way back into 5.6 too. That's good to know, because I use that so often. But you can see then we get to 5.8.8.
There's probably a box in our cluster running that.
Probably.
I use
Probably
it more
the
to
registrar,
know
right?
how to specify what minimum version of Perl I want to allow on my, so that somebody who downloads the module knows you have to have at least 5.8.8 to even run this.
Yeah. Oh, another really nice advantage too of like this Zilla and that is if you start using other people's modules and you create all those dependencies, it will go through and resolve all the dependencies and package all that together, so that when you release it, you don't have to go and create the dependency distribution. So if you start using popular modules that aren't necessarily core, but you need them to be a part of your module, it will help go through and set up that dependency list, which is very nice, very handy, so you don't have to do that as well.
That's one of the things I usually find by looking at this page too, is that I forgot to include a dependency.
Yeah, dependency list or whatever else that might be there. But then, I mean, you can also start looking through, your favorite modules or modules that you use often, and then they'll have the. And I could probably demo this at some point. Is create a outstanding ticket or bug request or something, or a feature request, and do a poll and everything. So maybe I can do that next time. But then you from here, you can go and look at the modules and see the outstanding issues that are there, and work on trying to patch some of those. And I found one time when I was diving into a module, and actually found the issue because of changes and updates to Perl or that. And I'm diving in there and I'm like, well, I could just change this, but then I didn't know where to go with that. So now you can check where the repo is, email the maintainer, and then eventually, if nothing comes back, you can either just fork it, or you can contact, there's an email address, and there's a documentation, oh, it's right here. This will have, as you start to go through this will be really helpful to go through. So if you go to cpan.org, modules, 04 pause, and if you just go to cpan.org and go to modules, there's a link right there for it. Before you go through and actually upload, you'll want to read through that. It's basically just this more in depth of what I kind of went through, but that will be helpful to just read through. But if you ever need to reflect back on what you need to do, that will identify all of that for you. But with that, then it will talk about how you can kind of overtake a module that might be abandoned or who you can contact to try to, if the owner isn't responding to you. And especially the hard part is, especially those modules that you look at, and this was written in 2006, so you obviously know that that's probably not going to be updated. Sometimes that might be best to just fork and start over, or fork it and just move on into other revisions. Name it something similar or something. So, but plenty of options. Hopefully, I've given you guys some ideas of what to start looking into. Do this, when you get some time. You can see it didn't take me very long to actually upload the module. When we did it, we were able to do the demo just here in this few minutes. So that part's the easy part. Now get out there and find ways to contribute, to test, to write patches, to create new modules. There's a lot of great knowledge out there, and whatever we can do to give back and share, we'll continue to help make sure that Perl stays strong and keeps moving forward as a modern Perl, as we kind of call that now with the new versioning and that. So we don't want Perl to go away, and if we can continue to have this great model of releasing and distributing information, that's what makes Perl stand out above almost all the others. PHP doesn't have anything like this. They kind of do, but it's really bad. And Ruby kind of is taking on some of this, and how do you find a Python module that you need? I mean, that's almost next to impossible. So then you're back to square one. You're writing all your own modules again. So there's a lot of great stuff there. Use the stuff that you've used here. Go find new stuff. Go take all that on. So, any other questions? Okay, so I expect everybody to have something published by the end of the day.
But it's going to take a week to sign up the account. I was like,
use somebody who's already got one then. Submit a patch or submit something. That's
submitting a patch for the Travigator to add a new phrase.
What's your vector?
yeah. What's your vector victory?
Who is that guy that had the big glasses on that? He actually had some hair or something.
Well, if you look,
It was a
back
shine.
there, it was the shine.
Are you picking your own nose?
Picking my nose. What's yours, Jace?
Jeez. Mine's Oxland, but I don't think I have a picture. You have no modules. OAXLIN.
Oh yeah.
Oh, what?
OAXLIN.
Nice pick.
What's the Lido one under yours?
I was the
Because you
last
did the
one to do
latest
an
release, that's
update.
why. Sniper.
Yep. Yeah.
That's one thing to know too is I made him a co-maintainer on the Business Online Lidl, so we can both release latest versions of that. That's really helpful. With something that we have here at work, we're both working.
And the famous log scrubber, which brought down signups, which was awesome. Thank you,
Version
Perl
numbers have gone out
5.8.
public.
Yes, the version numbers have gone up a couple times.
Okay, thanks, guys. And I will send out those slides, and then just the other links.
I think you know it down because it wasn't installed,
Yes.
not because it was broken.
Goodbye.